Bite into a piece of fresh ginger and your tongue insists it's hot, but nothing is burning. There's no flame, no temperature change, no actual heat anywhere in your mouth. Your body's being tricked, deliberately, chemically, by a root that has never had a nervous system in its life. And the strangest part is what happens about 20 minutes later, when that same trick reaches your stomach and does the exact opposite of what you'd expect. It doesn't irritate. For a lot of people, it settles things down. That contradiction is the whole story here. Ginger shows up in the medicine cabinets of half the world, in ginger ale for a queasy stomach, in tea after a heavy meal, in 100 grandmother remedies that somehow keep working. So here's the question worth hanging on to for the next few minutes. How can one compound feel like fire on your tongue and like calm in your gut? Because the answer isn't that ginger is soothing. The answer is much weirder than that, and we'll get to it at the very end. Start with the first 30 minutes. You swallow ginger, and the compound doing most of the work is called gingerol. It's the molecule that makes fresh ginger sharp. Gingerol binds to a receptor on your nerve endings called TRVP1. Think of it as a tiny heat alarm. Its actual job is to fire when tissue gets genuinely hot, around 43 degrees Celsius, so you yank your hand off the stove. Gingerol slips into that receptor and pulls the alarm without any heat existing at all. Capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers, does the same thing. Your brain has no way to tell the difference. It just receives the signal hot and believes it completely. But here's where it stops being a party trick. Those TRVP1 receptors aren't only in your mouth. They're scattered all through the lining of your digestive tract. So when ginger reaches your stomach, it's still ringing that same bell, just deeper inside you, where you can't feel it as heat. Instead, your stomach reads it as a wake-up call. The muscular wall of the lower stomach, an area called the antrum, starts contracting more actively. One small human study found that about a gram of ginger accelerated how quickly the stomach emptied its contents into the small intestine. Food that would have sat there sits there less. And that single fact explains a lot of what people report, because that heavy, overfull, why did I eat that feeling after a big meal isn't usually about the food being wrong. It's about pacing. Your stomach is a holding tank that releases food downstream in controlled squirts. When it's slow to empty, pressure builds, and pressure is what you actually feel as bloating and discomfort. Research suggests ginger nudges that tank to move things along on schedule. It's not settling your stomach, it's unsticking it. Now for the part that surprised researchers. Ginger appears to work on nausea through a completely different channel than digestion, one that runs to your brain. Nausea is largely coordinated by serotonin, and specifically by a receptor called 5-HT3 that sits on the vagus nerve, the enormous nerve highway wiring your gut to your brainstem. When that receptor gets overexcited, it sends the message, something is wrong down here, upstairs, and your brain generates the sensation of queasiness. Compounds in ginger seem to block that receptor, the same receptor that some prescription anti-nausea drugs target. Reviews of studies in pregnancy nausea and post-surgery nausea have found ginger performed better than placebo, though the studies are small and results vary. It doesn't fix your stomach, it quiets the phone line. Keep going downstream and something else is waiting. Ginger contains an enzyme called zingiberine, a protease, meaning it chops up protein. It's genuinely powerful. It's used commercially as a meat tenderizer. Once ginger reaches your small intestine, it also appears to encourage the release of bile and digestive enzymes, the chemical crew that breaks fat and protein into pieces small enough to actually absorb. Better breakdown upstream means less undigested material arriving in your colon, and that matters more than it sounds, because undigested material is precisely what your gut bacteria ferment into gas. Which brings us to the slow part, the part that only shows up if you're eating ginger day after day rather than once when you feel awful. Most of gingerol never gets absorbed into your bloodstream intact. It travels all the way to your large intestine, where roughly 40 trillion bacteria are waiting. Animal studies and early human research suggest daily ginger can shift the balance of that community, nudging it toward bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate.
Butyrate is the preferred fuel of the cells lining your colon. They eat it directly, rather than pulling energy from your blood. I want to be honest here. This is the least settled piece of the picture. The animal data is strong, the human data is early, and anyone telling you ginger reliably transforms your microbiome is ahead of the evidence. And then there's the twist nobody mentions. Dry ginger is not the same drug as fresh ginger. When you dry it or cook it, heat converts gingerol into a related compound called shogal, and shogal is more pungent, more potent, and behaves differently in the body. So your fresh grated ginger and your powdered ginger and your ginger tea are three overlapping but genuinely distinct experiences. Same root, different chemistry. So back to the question, how does one compound feel like fire on your tongue and calm in your gut? The answer is that ginger was never soothing anything. Ginger is a mild provocation. It's a plant defense chemical, evolved to make animals stop eating the root, and it works by pulling a false alarm on a receptor built for heat. Your mouth interprets that alarm as burning. Your digestive tract interprets the exact same alarm as movement, squeeze, empty, push things forward. The relief people describe isn't ginger calming your gut down, it's ginger waking your gut up. And a gut that's moving properly is a gut you stop noticing. That's the trick. The comfort is a side effect of the irritation. It's also why more isn't better. Some people find that larger amounts bring on heartburn, precisely because those same TRV1 receptors live in the esophagus, and because a faster emptying stomach isn't what everyone needs. Most studies use somewhere around 1 to 2 grams a day, roughly a thumb-sized piece of fresh root. Your kitchen already knew the dose. If you want to keep decoding how your body actually works, the quiet mechanics running under everything you eat and feel, subscribe, because there's a lot more machinery down there worth seeing. And if this one landed, you'll want the video on what happens to your gut when you drink coffee every single morning, because coffee is playing an even stranger game with the same nerve. One last thing, and it matters. Everything here is educational content about physiology. It is not medical advice, and it isn't a diagnosis or a treatment plan for anyone. Ginger can interact with certain medications and certain conditions, so before you change your diet, add a supplement, or use anything to manage a symptom, please talk to a doctor or a qualified medical professional who knows your history. They can see what a video never can. You.